Hello, and welcome to the Resilient Lineage podcast, where you reflect on the past, anticipate the future, and discover what God is up to today. I'm Olivia.
And I'm Milo.
And today is going to be a fun episode.
Yeah. Welcome to the table.
Yes.
This is our gate leg table that we use every week.
It's been in the house, I think, ever since I was little.
Yeah, I don't remember where we got it. Your mom will tell me after she listens to this episode. Like, hey, I can tell you where we got that. Because a lot of our furniture came from her side of the family. And this is like a family antique or something.
Yeah, little did they know.
It's a family lineage. Look at that.
Look at that.
We are going to be looking at the story of Elijah today, but it's the passage where it is post-victory Elijah.
Yes.
And I think, have you ever had that experience where you've gone from a high, like things have been amazing, to then just like you're crashed out? Like whether it be spiritually or emotionally or like just energy wise or...
I mean, yeah. I mean, like emotionally, you have like so much build up to like a specific event and you have this kind of like perceived way it's going to go. And sometimes it goes the way you want or sometimes it doesn't go the way you want. And then afterwards it's like, oh, okay. And I think like spiritually, there's lots of times, even like during 21 days of prayer where you're like praying heavily for a specific thing or an answer to get prayed or something to be provided, and like it's just consistent. And then finally, like when it's answered, it's like this peak moment and you're like, how you can never forget this moment. And then you end up forgetting the moment because either something else happened or you just like gradually find a flow and you're not at that intensity that you were at.
I think there can be a place where, I mean, I've experienced that. Definitely. Like the as a preacher, you know, you can go from a really great Sunday and then, you know, where you saw lots of people, God helped a lot of folks in the service. You know, you felt like the word that you presented or preached from was like spot on. And then the next day it's like, what am I doing? Like, what's the point? Like that was so good. And it was so God, it's not replicable. Like I can't do that again because I didn't do it the first time. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like there can be sort of this, I don't know, like I think that's a way more common experience than what people may realize. Well, I'll say this. I think people have had the experience. I don't think most of us realize how everybody else also has that experience. Like this is normal. This is common to kind of go through those sort of highs. Like you're talking, you go from this mountaintop to then this low. And so I think there's a healthy sort of response to like, what do we do? That's what we're going to talk about today is what do you do after you've been on that mountaintop? What do you do after you've seen God do something incredible or he's answered prayer or you've come through something difficult or whatever it is. And then afterwards you're kind of like, I'm done. Yeah. Like I'm just wore out. So we're going to look in 1 Kings. Yeah. Olivia's going to walk us through the backstory because you've been diving
these Old Testaments, man. I've been like,
you're digging this.
Yeah.
So you've spent the bulk of the time crafting these notes, and this episode was your idea. Yeah. Why?
Well, it was we kind of like played with it because my boyfriend was going through a series with his church, and they were going through like when God says no, and I was like, oh. Like, I've definitely been there. So then I was, like, trying to, like, play with that idea. But I really liked this passage. So I wanted to stick with the passage. So then when we met, you were like, maybe, like, we should change the title and, like, let this be the direction. And so then I was just like, okay, like.
Well, and to be clear, like, the reasons why I suggested that
is because there's, like, no explicit. God doesn't explicitly say no
he doesn't
in this passage.
Yeah.
So,
but he does say something else.
Yes.
And so anyway, we're going to get there.
Yeah.
Why don't you give us the backstory?
The backstory. Yeah. Okay, so this is Elijah.
So here you are, Old Testament.
Yes. So this is after King Solomon, the Israel is divided into two kingdoms. It started with Jeroboam and Rehoboam. And now, in the time of Elijah, in the northern kingdom, it's being ran by Ahab and Jezebel, who are terribly wicked people, especially Jezebel. And it is far from God. They are like stranded like into idols and idolatry, and
It's bad.
it's bad.
Yeah.
And so Elijah is a prophet, and he feels like he's the only prophet left. And this is the time when Jezebel really wanted her people to worship Baal and was so against the word of God that she sought prophets to be dead.
Yeah, like execute and assassinate.
In brutally ways. Like, it wasn't just, yeah. So at this time also, Obadiah, who was another prophet, was hiding a bunch of prophets in caves and finding them and collecting them so that they wouldn't be killed. So at this point, Elijah doesn't know that's happening, and he feels like he's the only prophet left. Okay, now we get to chapter 18. And 18 basically talks about, you probably have heard the story where Elijah confronts the Baal prophets and says, okay, let's have a competition. If you're God, like, let's see whose God is the real God.
Well, can I press pause right there?
Pause.
So in God's response to Israel's disobedience, to their idolatries, he creates drought within the land.
Yes.
Right? So, and Elijah delivers that word. Because of your disobedience, because of your idolatry, the Lord is not going to allow it to rain. Now, the irony is the God that they are worshiping, they worshiped a bunch of gods, but the king of their pagan gods was Baal, which is the god of rain.
Yeah.
So it's sort of this God going, you're choosing to worship this pagan god of rain instead of me. I'm going to make it not rain.
Yeah.
And so that's the kind of backdrop behind everything that's taken place. And then there's sort of this standoff between Elijah, who's the perception is this sole prophet, even though we know there's this.
And he was by himself at the altar. Like, it's not like he had.
Well, I'm going to have you tell the story. So there's this standoff, and then you have these prophets of Baal. So continue. I just wanted to make sure we talked about that drought piece because it's a critical part of the story.
And Ahab was there. The king was there.
And he appears to be a king that is driven by whatever his wife wants.
Yes.
He is not a man with much of a backbone.
And so when this happens, there's 450 Baal prophets, and they're building this altar. And Elijah says, you pick out whatever offering, cow, bull. You give me whatever one you want to give me. We're just going to lay these on altars. And then whoever God strikes down fire to consume this offering is the real God. So
if it's Baal's, so be it Baal.
And if it's our God, let it be
our God. And then whoever it is, we will worship.
And it says all of Israel also came.
Yeah, so this is a spectacle.
Like, yes. So Elisha is like, if this goes wrong, I'm kind of done. And so Elijah starts making jokes. Elijah starts making jokes. And they're like, Baal's God isn't like responding at all. Like, there's no fire. The prophets are cutting themselves to try to get the attention and like calling out names and worshiping him and bowing and, you know, like trying to consecrate themselves so that they can get the attention of Baal. And
there's no fire.
So Elijah starts building his altar, and he actually like builds a moat around it, and then asks people to like come and dump water all over the altar so that also the moat fills up with water.
Yeah, 12, I think it's 12 pitchers.
Yeah.
Which are like, a pitcher is not like a little 2-gallon thing. These are like drums of water, which is interesting. Drums of water poured out on a sacrifice during a drought. So it's not a small thing. And why 12?
The 12 tribes.
There's 12 tribes.
And he set up 12 stones to like symbolize,
I think it's 12.
At least there are 12 stones.
Yeah. I'll look that up real quick. Keep going.
And so basically Elijah then prays out this prayer of like, they're mocking me, they're mocking you, they're not proclaiming you as Lord. Send a fire to consume this altar. And it's wet. So it's like, here's Baal's people with like their dry wood, their dry sacrifice, and like here's Elijah is consumed with water, very moistured, and
So let me pause. 4 pitchers of water.
Okay.
Poured out 3 times.
Poured out 3 times, so 12.
It's 12.
Yeah, nice.
Okay.
And so Elijah the prophet came near and says, "O Lord, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, let it be known that this day you are the God in Israel, and that I am your servant, and that I have done all these things at your word. Answer me, O Lord, answer me, that this people may know that you, O Lord, are God, and that they have turned their hearts back." Then a fire of the Lord fell and consumed the offering and the wood and the stones and the dust, and licked up all the water that was in the trench. And when all the people saw it, they fell on their faces and said, "The Lord, he is God."
Boom!
Boom. And then you know what Elijah does?
Elijah.
Sorry.
Okay,
Sorry, Elijah's later.
Yeah,
I just get
keep
them.
saying that because there's 2. Do you know how you remember the difference between the 2? Or how I do it?
J is before S.
J is before S.
Yeah. There we go. Okay. I was like at a moment.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And then Elijah, after this happens, says, "Seize the prophets of Baal. Let none of them escape." And they seized them, and Elijah brought them down to the brook of Kishon and slaughtered them there.
Oof.
So he was like, "Yay! I'm glad you're proclaiming that Christ is Lord, or God is Lord. Now I'm going to kill you."
Yeah.
So that's how that chapter ends.
Which is, so here, it kind of ends there. Because then then Elijah looks at
Ahab
and says, "Get home, because it's going to start raining. Mm-hmm. The Lord is going to respond with rain. Even though you've been worshiping this pagan god, even though that pagan god did not respond with fire."
Mm-hmm. And it says, Ahab rode and went to Jezreel, and the hand of the Lord was on Elijah, and he grabbed his garment and ran before Ahab to the entrance of Jezreel.
Yeah.
So I think also like Elijah's feeling like this great victory, but I also think he thinks it's over.
Well, I think there's this, it's easy in these kind of moments to go, here was this massive victory. Here was this thing that happened. God answered. Everybody bowed down and said,
the Lord, he is God.
Yeah, the Lord, which is Yahweh. Yahweh alone is God, right? There's this sense of victory. It's sort of like, but there's another part of the story, because who's still alive?
Elijah and like Jezebel.
Yeah, Jezebel's still alive.
Yeah.
And there's still these other prophets, and there's still this system of idolatry, and there's still this system of wickedness. Elijah still feels alone in all, like he thinks he's the only prophet because he doesn't know about these other 100 prophets that have been squirreled away. So to me, like a really great metaphor for this, it's like watching the end of Star Wars, A New Hope. I know you were thinking this.
I know, yeah, right there with you.
Where Luke blows up the Death Star. And I remember when I was a kid, like little kid, and I remember watching, and I was like 4, right? When I could really process that movie. And it's like, boom, the Death Star explodes. And you think, okay, the good guys won, the bad guys lost. But then how does Empire Strikes Back begin?
They're like searching for him.
It's like the bad guys are still around. Why? Darth Vader didn't die. There's this emperor that's still out there. There's still this system, and there's still this network that's out there that is going to crush this rebellion, right? That is seeking freedom and liberty for the universe.
Oh my goodness.
Right? So in a similar way, you can read the story on Mount Carmel when God answers with this prayer, responds with fire, is like the blowing up of the Death Star. But the reality is there's still all of this other stuff that has to get dealt with. And that's where we find Elijah. Because that's so what we're going to talk about is this high that Elijah's on, but then as he looks around, he realizes there's still a lot of work to be done.
Yeah.
Despite what was accomplished, there's a lot more to be done. Because in the context of all this, Jezebel finds out.
And then, do you want me to read?
Well,
First.
first of all, Jezebel finds out that what's happened up on Mount Carmel, which I don't know why she wasn't there. I find that very peculiar.
Yeah.
You think she would be,
Yeah.
but she finds out that her prophets have all been executed, that this horrible thing happened. And her response isn't, oh no, she doesn't run away in fear. Actually, she leans into it and goes,
I need him dead.
I need Elijah dead. And I'm putting a bounty on his head. I need him assassinated. And Elijah gets that word that this is what's going on. So that's where we pick up the story, because then now Elijah, so here's this guy that goes from this massive victory, he's running.
The same direction to Jezebel.
Yeah.
To then having this message from Jezebel saying, I'm going to get you. And then his response is...
Well, so why don't you read it for us?
Okay.
Because it's almost like Elijah was going to finish the job. But then...
The word.
Yeah.
Yeah, it says, Then Jezebel sent a messenger to Elijah, saying, So may the gods do to me and more also, if I do not make your life as the life of one of them by this time tomorrow. Verse 3. Then he was afraid, and he arose, and he ran for his life, and came to Beersheba, which belongs to Judah, and left his servant there. But he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness, and came and sat under a broom tree, and he asked that he might die, saying, It is enough. Now, Lord, take away my life, for I am no better than my fathers. And he lay down, and he slept under a broom tree.
And that's what we want to focus on today, is this: how do you go from trusting in the Lord like Elijah has faithfully demonstrated? How do you go from somebody who's seen this massive victory, like this is a defining moment in the life of Israel? How do you go from standing up to power, evil power, to you're on the run, alone, going into a deserted place, and your prayer request is
To die.
Like, where's
the link?
Yeah, what happens in that? And I think in our lives, like in far less dramatic ways, a lot of us live in those kind of places. I would go from a good day to a hard day. I go from, a massive accomplishment to then something else in my life falling out. And now I have to go deal with that stuff. Like it's this, there's these highs and lows. Way we're framing the question is, how do you go from a place where you're trusting in God's agenda, you're trusting in God's provision, you're trusting in God's faithfulness, you're trusting that the Lord is going to answer prayer, because that's what he does on Mount Carmel. It's Mount Carmel, right? That all that happened?
I think so.
Yeah. To the place where you're bringing God your own agenda. Like you've been living by his, and now you kind of go, okay, those great, amazing things are behind us. Here's what I want to do now. I'm done. How do you get to that place? And so we're going to kind of walk through that, and then we're going to kind of explore, how do you get to that place where you're kind of bringing your own agenda to God, and then how do you get to the place where you're trusting in the agenda God still has for you? Like, how do you pull yourself out, or how do you trust God to pull you out of that place? Okay, so there's going to be a handful of things we look at, and we're going to kind of unpack these things. And because I looked up some statistics, because you know how I am about statistics.
Right.
I like my stats, because I think a lot of us can find ourselves in these places. So how do you get to the place where you make an agenda for God? I think this is what we see in Elijah. One,
exhaustion.
He's freaking exhausted. Like physically, he outran the chariot. Like some say, there's some scholars that believe like God gave him a supernatural. So they're up on Mount Carmel. God answers with fire. He looks at Ahab, says, hey, you need to get home because it's going to start raining. It does start raining. Ahab is like booking it back to Jezreel. And Elijah's like running
ahead of him.
Like he's like, the Flash, right? Like there's this Like, so you have that. He's got to be mentally exhausted.
And it says, even in chapter 18, it says, Ahab went to eat and drink, and Elijah went to the top of Mount Carmel, and he bowed himself on the earth and put his face between his knees. And my commentary says he's either exhausted and he's just like done, and he's like, or he's praying.
Yeah, he's like,
there's this like posture that
he's just wore out, right? So he's either he's probably physically exhausted. He's mentally exhausted. If anybody has ever led a worship service of any kind, whether you've been on the worship team or you've been the preacher, or you've been part of like that, making that leading that type of moment, it is spiritually exhausting. Like I would when I preach on Sundays, I come home spent, and I can't explain it. I can't explain why. Like you're just getting up and talking. Why is that so exhausting? And I'm sure somebody's done a bunch of research out there that I haven't looked up, but like, so I think that's where he's at. Like, cause it's a protracted period of time. They're up on that mountain.
Yeah. And
there's there's this spiritual battle taking place up there. So, he's in this place of exhaustion. Did some stats. 58% of Americans say they work really long hours. That is contributing to their exhaustion. 35% say that their heavy workload is contributing to their exhaustion. 34% are unable to find a work-life balance, which I have issues with that whole frame of mind, but people say that trying to find that and the inability to find that is contributing to their lack of work-life balance, or contributing to their exhaustion. And then 52% say when they're mentally exhausted, they don't have the support that they need to be able to respond. So, oftentimes when you see people, I mean, we're drinking coffee right now, and we're not drinking it to like stay awake. It's just nice to have while we're doing the podcast. But there are people that like they have to have some type of external stimulant to stay awake, to get over the exhaustion hump. So we know he's exhausted.
He's lonely.
We also know he's lonely.
Like he left his servant.
Yeah.
And he's by himself.
There's a bunch of research out there right now, and they're saying that statisticians are saying we're living in a loneliness epidemic culturally right now. 61% of young adults say that they're lonely. Do you resonate with that? I mean, not personally, but like, do you see people
I think people don't know what to do when they're alone. So I think they just resort to their phone, or they watch a show, or they do things to distract themselves when they're alone. Or it could be napping, or it could be sleeping, or it could be reading. It's like doing something when you're alone, instead of just like what scripture says, like rest and find delight in God. Like,
and pursue community.
And I'm an extrovert. I like getting out with people. So naturally I can make myself busy to like avoid being alone. So I know when I would come back on the weekends and mom would have work, or you would be dinking around working on yard work or something. And like, I really don't have a ton of friends here that are still in the area. So I would just like find myself like, what do I do? Like, my homework's done. I guess I can.
I could go outside and help Dad, but no.
I didn't want to get there, but that's kind of also that.
You stepped into that one.
I did. You were supposed to know that.
A lot of the folks I sit down with that are in a difficult place, maybe mentally, spiritually, they're just not in a healthy place. And we'll talk about this. I'll ask them. I'm like, well, who are your friends? What kind of community are you a part of? And the vast majority of times, if people are not in a good place, that's one of the things that's broken in their lives. Not all the time, but it's pretty significant. And I'll ask them, I'm like, well, what do you do on the weekends? Nothing. Who do you hang out with? Well, I've got a few friends, but it's almost like they wait for their friends to pull them into something instead of them stepping into something. Yeah. Or thinking ahead. Hey, it's Wednesday night. What am I going to do this weekend? How can I surround myself with folks? Or, hey, today's a day that, I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna connect with this group or whatever it is, like trying to get people into that frame of mind. But so nonetheless, Elijah has put himself into a lonely place.
Yeah.
Third,
Fear.
yeah,
That's the first thing it describes him as, or his first reaction
is that he's afraid.
is that he's afraid. Which is funny
Yeah,
to me, because here he was standing against 450 prophets and Ahab and Israel. And it doesn't say he was afraid because he had a confidence in God. But his first reaction wasn't, okay, God, what do I do? What's your next instruction? Am I supposed to stay up north or am I not? I thought I was going to overthrow Jezebel or who the powerhouse of idolatry.
Yeah.
Like
we don't know why he went back to Jezreel or why he was headed that direction. And so we're speculating here as to why he was doing that. But I can imagine there were some expectations he had of what would be next. That when he got word that Jezebel was still out for him, that he realized that, okay, that's not going to happen. That power structure is still in place. Even though we had the victory back here, we won this battle. We haven't won the war yet. And maybe my part in all of this is over.
And what's crazy is like 4 verses before that, it says like the hand of the Lord was on Elijah. So Elisha must have had like this confidence that like, yeah, I'm doing what God's asked me to do.
Yeah.
But with this fear thing, God was not asking him to do that. And we'll get into that.
Yeah. And a lot of people walk around with a lot of fear. Like that's the thing that I see that grips a lot of folks. Some research said 60% of Americans they're afraid of the government right now. Like the government extending beyond their constitutional powers. 59% of people have fear related to their personal health issues. 57% of people, I thought this was interesting, were afraid of identity theft. That somebody could go in and get their social security card number or credit card numbers and just destroy them,
financially.
Well, and digitally, right? That obviously you can do that financially, but you could destroy somebody's reputation. You could destroy like so much of our lives is about how we interact online. You could just somebody could be wrecked with all those things. And so and some of those fears may be exaggerated, right, in a person's mind and heart, but nonetheless, they're carrying those things. These are the things they walk around with. And then you amplify that when something actually does happen. Somebody actually does lose their job, or somebody is in a car accident, or somebody gets a bad medical report, or somebody, whatever it is, then, the fear switches from could happen to it is happening. And now they're already in a place where they're exhausted. They're already probably in a place where they're feeling lonely. And then fear just like
tops it off.
Yeah, fear's just sort of like blossoms in those environments. If you're exhausted and lonely, fear will take root very, very, very quickly if you're not mindful. And then the fourth thing.
Despair.
Yeah, despair. I said, despair creates a bias that says the best is in the past and the future holds only pain and death.
Whoa. It's deep and yet poetic.
But I think that's where that's where a lot of people are, right? And you could see that with Elijah. Like the best is behind me. Like the greatest moment of my prophetic ministry
is behind me
is now over.
All I'm looking at is death. And he's like, I'd rather have your death, Lord. Just take me up.
Yeah.
But
I would rather be taken by the hands of my
Savior,
my Lord,
than
by the hand of a pagan queen
who will probably brutally murder him.
Yeah.
And worse than
because that's the only future he can imagine. It's only a future with pain and death. And when people live with despair, that's the only future they can imagine. And we've talked about despair on this podcast before, but it's the Latin word for despair is desperar, which de meaning no and sperar meaning hope. It's a place of no hope. Because if you have hope, the hope is the future is actually going to be okay. That there's something redemptive here. There's hope that there will be victory, that there will be something good that comes out of this. You know what I mean? But if you're not, when you're in a place of despair, all you can imagine in the future is oncoming pain and death. And so I think, and I think that's why his request is just take me now.
Yeah.
I'm done. And, arguably you could look at Elijah and go like, bro, I don't even blame you. Like, you've run a good race.
And he's like not young.
Yeah. He's stood up for what's right. He's honored the Lord through all kinds of nonsense. He's stood up against power. He's cultivated an environment for people to not just hear from the Lord, but to see the Lord demonstrate his power. He's seen God stop the skies from bringing rain, and then praying, and it it does rain. He's seen these things take place over and over and over again, and so I don't blame him to kind of be in that place of I'm kind of done. I'm wore out. I'm finished. So if you've ever been in that place where you're just I'm tired, you're lonely, I don't. Even if I have somebody, I don't even know if they would be able to relate to what I'm going through. I got these people that are against me. I can't imagine a future that's going to be any more significant or powerful than what just happened. So I think that's what I think when we get to a place of making an agenda that we bring to the Lord and going, here's my prayer request, here's what I want the rest of my life to be. It's oftentimes born out of these things.
Because that's what has your attention.
Yeah.
And that's where you're focusing on. That's all you can think about. And his prayer isn't, Lord, thank you for this life. Thank you for just proving your victory. Yeah. Thank you for allowing me to be a vessel. Because, he did great miracles. He raised kids from death and, showed power and, demonstration of, this is how to be a vessel for the Lord and a prophet and speak truth and not... he doesn't focus on that.
Yeah.
Because that's not what he's thinking. But I think what's interesting is it's not Jezebel directly talking to Elijah. It's Jezebel through a messenger.
Yeah.
And then God's first response is through his messenger.
Okay, so let's get into this.
Yeah.
So how do you hear God's plan for you? We can live with an agenda that we want to bring to the Lord, but how do we hear or put ourselves in a place to hear what God has for us? Particularly when we're not in a healthy place, when we're in that exhausted, lonely, fearful, despairing place. How do we hear what the Lord has for us? And I think there's some things we can extract out of this text that teaches those things. Okay, first.
You take the strength God's given you.
Yeah, how does that happen?
Yeah.
Do you want to look at this
I'll
for us?
read it, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So after Elijah said this prayer, basically for him to die, it says, and he lay and he slept under a broom tree, and an angel touched him and said to him, arise and eat. And he looked, and behold, there was at his head a cake baked on hot stones and a jar of water. And he ate and he drank and he lay down again. And the angel of the Lord came to him a second time and touched him and said, arise and eat, for the journey is too great for you. And he arose and he ate and he drank, and he went in the strength of that food 40 days and 40 nights to Horeb, the mount of God.
Okay, so the first thing, take the strength God has for you. I love how the response is Elijah needed a nap and a snack. Do you know what I mean?
I'm okay now.
Yeah. Well, and it was several times.
40 days and 40 nights.
Well, that's how long he traveled for, but it was at least a couple of occasions that...
one or two times that's recorded that the angel touched him and was like, amen.
Hey, why don't we wake up and eat another snack time? Okay, why'd you go back and take a nap?
No, and I wonder if Elijah, when I read this for the first time, I was like, I guarantee when he went back to sleep, he prayed the same prayer again. Let me die.
Yeah.
Because it's he lay down again. It's
well, and if you think about it, it's really fascinating. He doesn't even...
It's not like, whoa,
Yeah, he's not
like
surprised.
astonished.
Yeah.
It's like, you did it.
And I think too, as just as in our dialogue, when he leaves his servant, he puts himself into a lonely place. And I think there can be times when, even if he had a servant, he may still feel lonely. Because I think there can be moments when, even though we're surrounded by people, we may have good people in our life, they can't relate with the struggles that we're facing. Even though they may be good friends, and even though they may be good companions, and we may even know that they want to serve and love us well, but like you can tell they just can't relate to what I'm going through. But then in this text, like, it's an angel of the Lord that's sent to him, and I can't help but think that Elijah was like, "Oh, but you can relate to what I'm going through.
Mm-hmm.
You understand."
Because
the spiritual struggle that this has been.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Like the second time the angel of the Lord came and says, "Arise and eat, for the journey is too great for you." Like, I recognize where you are at. I'm not asking you to go do something because I know your state.
I'm not preaching at you. I'm not making fun of you. I'm not ridiculing you. I'm not condemning you. I'm not doing any of those things. So I think there's a couple things that is happening here. Is one is like the Lord has sent him a companion.
Mm-hmm.
The Lord has provided him a meal, like, right?
Giving him time to rest.
And then the Lord has given him a chance to sleep. Like there's this mental, physical, relational, spiritual exhaustion that he's had that is actually being restored in this time. And it's under a broom tree, right? It's in the wilderness. It's in this place where he thought he was going to die, and it's actually a place where he's going to be restored. And and I think that can be one of the things that sometimes we look at our lives and we go, I'm heading to this place, and we're heading into this responsibility, or I'm running away from something, and I'm going to put myself in a place to where I just want to be done. And if you're having suicidal thoughts,
you talk to someone.
Reach out to a friend. We'll put up some information at the end of this podcast. In fact, you should see something. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll see the number of who to contact. You should reach out to somebody. But if you're in that dark place, like, the place where you thought you were done actually becomes the place where the Lord restores, where he does something in you. And he does it in a way that it's unmistakably him. So there's a strength that the Lord has for you. And it might not be all the strength you want, but it's everything you need to take the next part of the journey. Yeah. Which the next part of the journey is
to go to the Mount of Oreb, which is
what's the significance of Oreb?
Which it's back north. Like and it's where like other places in biblical history have taken place.
Okay, so one, it's closer to danger.
Yeah.
Not further away from it.
No, because he was up north in Jezreel and like literally fled to the southern of the southern part. Like, he's in a different kingdom now. So the Lord's like, we're going to go back up.
We're going to go closer to the threat. But then there's two things. There's several, but there's two significant moments that take place at Mount Horeb. One is that's where Moses saw the burning bush. When the Lord said, you're my person to go into Egypt to set my people free. So in the life of Israel, this is a place where the Lord has spoken to a calling in someone's life. The second place it's the place where the Lord delivered the 10 commandments to Moses. So Moses actually comes back to this place, and it's the Lord that it's not just, here's a mission I'm sending you on. It's, here's the kind of people I'm calling you to be. And so he goes to the place where he knows the Lord has spoken. And I think like that's part of leaning into the plan and agenda the Lord has for my life is, am I leaning into the place where the Lord has spoken? Namely,
Mount Oreb.
In this case, it's Mount Oreb, but you have your Bible right in front of you.
Like, are you going to retreat to your word and like see what God has to say?
Yeah.
Because God, like, it's living. Like, God speaks to us through this in our prayer life and reveals ideas and thoughts and just like Yeah, like it's clear when you read your word, when like God answers something in your life.
It's
unmistakable.
Yeah, and I think there's two pieces here that we can lean into. So, you could say Mount Orb is that place where the 10 Commandments was delivered, or the word of the Lord was delivered, right? Like the expectations of God. Okay, well, how much am I in the word? How much am I actually reading the scriptures and understanding? And I understand it's not necessarily intuitive. The scriptures are, it's this strange combination of being incredibly simple and easy to grab a hold of. And then there are other parts that are deeply complex, and you don't have to have, but it's incredibly helpful if you have historical context and you understand the nuances. I mean, it's simple and complex, and it's a mystery, and yet a child can understand it. Like it's all of these beautiful things all rolled into one. So that's the word. The other piece of it too is, because this is the location where not only did Moses receive the 10 Commandments, the expectations, the Torah for God's people, but then it's also the place where Moses had a deeply personal experience. I think there's something to be said for going to those places, or sitting down with those people that can tell you how they heard from the Lord, how they have experienced God, how they have lived on mission for the Lord, and probably experienced the same highs and lows that you're facing. Not same meaning, ideal set of, same set of circumstances, but same sort of rhythms, same fears, same exhaustion, same sense of loneliness, same sense of despair. Like they've been in those places. And sitting down with them going like, how did you overcome these things? How did you not get stuck? How did you not sit in a place and go, the best days are behind me, take my life, Lord? So I think there's two things we can do when we want to know the Lord's plan, is going, okay, how do I put myself in a place to be exposed to God's word and hear it, and then also be exposed to the testimonies of his people and learn from them. So go to the place where God speaks. Third,
listen for his voice despite the storm. And do you want me to read that part?
Sure.
Okay. It says,
so he's in Oreb.
Yeah.
He finds a cave on this mountain, and he's hunkered down in the cave.
And this is like the moment where God directly speaks to him. It's not through an angel this time. It is like God to Elijah. This is the first thing that's recorded since the prayer. And it says, then he came to the cave and lodged in it. And behold, the word of the Lord came to him. And he said to him, what are you doing here, Elijah? He said, I have been very jealous for the Lord, the God of hosts, for the people of Israel have forsaken your covenant, thrown down your altars, and killed your prophets with the sword. And I, even I only, am left, and they seek my life and take it away. And he said, go out and stand on the mount before the Lord. Behold, the Lord passed by, and a great strong wind followed, and tore the mountains and broke in pieces, and the rocks fell before the Lord, but the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, the sound of a low whisper, and Elisha heard it. He wrapped his face in his cloak and went out and stood at the entrance of the cave. And behold, there came a voice to him and said, what are you doing here, Elijah? And then he says the same response. Like, it's not like this earth-shattering moment.
It's not like it changed.
He was just like, this is what I'm hung up on, Lord.
Yeah.
I have been very jealous for the Lord, the God of hosts, for the people of Israel have forsaken your covenant, thrown down your altars, and killed your prophets by the sword. And I, even I, am the only one left, and they seek to take my life and take it away. The Lord said to him, go, return your way to the wilderness of Damascus, and when you arrive, you shall anoint Hazael to be king over Syria, and Jehu son of Nimshi you shall anoint to be king over Israel, and Elisha son of Shaphat of Abel Meholah you shall anoint him to be the prophet in your place. So like that's his next mission, is when you come to the place where God speaks and you go where God needs you to go, and you, like, despite all the chaos, like, you seek to hear his voice. Like, God will reveal to you what you need to do.
Well, in that passage, there's a similar, or not similar, it's kind of a popular thing, that God wasn't in the wind and he wasn't in the earthquake and he wasn't in the fire. It was the still small voice, right? And I think sometimes we can get to the place we want to hear from the Lord. And so we think we've got to put ourselves in something that's big and dramatic. I need to go to a revival service. I need to go to
I need to have this high intensity moment.
Yeah, there has to be something that's real earth shaking. I need to be in this moment that it's so intense in its expression. And I'm not saying the Lord can't answer prayer in those moments.
Right.
And I'm not saying we shouldn't step into worship services that are good and dynamic, and there's excitement and there's joy and there's a sense of anticipation. Like, all of that's good, but I think so much of that it just amplifies maybe the emotional exhaustion we have, and it actually may even contribute to it. And I think there's far more, at least I can speak to this in my life. And I've been a part of some amazing worship services. Like recently, your mom and I had the chance to go to the Brooklyn Tabernacle Church in New York City. And they're known for having this amazing choir, and Pastor Jim Cymbala is still the pastor there. And he's like, I read his book in the 90s, right? Fresh Wind, Fresh Fire, The Power of Prayer, right? It's a really good book. And so it was an honor to be able to go to the service, and we got there early, so we were able to get close to the front. And I remember sitting there and thinking, like, okay, we'll see how this goes. And this is kind of a nationally recognized church. And when worship started, like, I haven't worshiped like that in a really long time. It was like the music surrounded us. I've become accustomed to the music coming at me from the platform, like the speaker system and the way it's amplified. And I don't know why in that location. And it's the church is in an old, like, operatic theater type thing. So I don't know how much of it is a combination of the sound system, the acoustics of the space, but then even the congregation entering into worship. That the reason why I felt surrounded by worship was because I was surrounded by people who were worshiping. But it's easy to think, like, I need to find a place like that where just the volume is kind of set to dialed up to 11, so I can feel all of that, so I can experience the Lord. When my general experience is, the vast majority of times when I've been struggling and I've been seeking the Lord, it's been in my quiet time, early in the morning, before I've engaged with anybody else in the day. And I open up his word and I bring to him something that's heavy on my heart, and he speaks. And it's not with loudness, and it's not with big celebration, and it's not with big jubilee. And I'm not saying there's not a place for that. As much as it is, I think we think we have to be in that type of setting in order to hear from the Lord, then we will either pursue that setting or we will seek to manufacture that setting. Instead of going like, wait, there's this I can hear God in the stillness, which is the vast majority of my life, is in these still places. And so I think, one way I hear God's plan is I listen for God's plan in these still moments of the day, in the still moments of the week. I don't have to go like, I got to hear God's plan. It's Tuesday. I got to wait till Sunday to be able to hear that. Like, no, you could put yourself in a place this week, today, to be able to hear from him there. Okay. So how do you hear God's plan? Take the strength that God has for you. Go to the place where God speaks. Listen for God's voice.
Despite everything that could be going on.
Actually listen. Don't just come talking in your prayer time. Stop and be still and listen. And then fourth,
listen and obey what God has called you to do.
Yeah, take your next steps in obeying God.
And it's like, and for Elijah, it's like a different direction. Like, instead of challenging power and... Yeah,
that's a really good point.
It's like God's new mission is, I need you to then go anoint people who will do what you've done. Carry the torch. You're passing the torch.
Yeah.
Like, you're finishing the race. Pass the baton.
They are part of the plan, which God is directing them into a larger community that is going to resolve the problems
you're going
to
go anoint 2 kings to replace them. So power will shift. but I need you to go anoint the next person that will take your place.
Which is Elijah.
Or Elisha. There we go. So we got it.
Yeah, which I like. Usually the next step is not fuzzy. The next 3 steps might be fuzzy.
And I think what's interesting is like God answers him with like the question, and it's the same question. And it's like, I don't know if God was like trying to get something by, like, let's see if your posture is going to change. And it didn't. He was like, okay, man, like, here's your mission. That, like, what are you going to do when God asks, like, what are you doing here?
Which I think what that exposes
Are you here for me to, like, speak to you and minister to you, or are you here because you want me to answer the prayer that you prayed a while ago? Are you still wanting to die?
I think the Lord knows the answer to the question, right? Like, it's not like the Lord's like, hey,
let me ask this deep question and see what you have to say.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Like, the Lord knows the answer to these questions. I think what it demonstrates to Elijah is the bias he's holding on to, right? He's kind of he's in this place of like, I've done all of the things. I've demonstrated all the faithfulness, yet nonetheless, here we are. And I think the Lord, in some regards, the first pass may have been complaining, and the second pass may have been testifying. That the first time, I've been jealous for you people, I've been faithful, I've done all these things. Why am I here? Second pass is, I've been faithful. I've done all these things. That's right. Now here's your next thing. Go take the next step.
And it's like this, God like invites you into like a step. Like, God's not going to give you a new mission when you have a hardened heart where you're stuck up on something. Like, God wants you to resolve that and let him restore that so you can walk into a new thing, like with humility. And God like invites you into this next thing. That in order to go anoint people, you need to be like consecrated and willing to minister to them and to anoint them, and to like, you're passing it on like now. Like, that's your replacement. Yeah.
Well, and that's that future-oriented idea, right? Like, there isn't pain and death in the future. In fact, what's ironic is, Elijah's in that place of like, just take me now. I want to die. Because all he can imagine in the future is pain and death. And yet the scriptures tell us he never experiences death.
No, ever. God never answered that prayer.
At all.
At all. Because he got sent up by
a chariot of fire came down and picked him up and
went to heaven.
Took him to heaven. I mean, so it's a really peculiar thing that when, the Lord has a spiritual journey for you, and that's different going to be than what mine is. And we're all on a different journey, yet we are all, we talked about this in the Tabernacle series. There is one way, and it's through Jesus Christ. There is one way, and he's the creator, and he's the king, and he's the sovereign one, right? The author of life. And so there's this sense of we all have our own journey and our own way of taking whatever that next step of obedience is. I doubt any of us are going to be going out. I mean, maybe somebody listening to this podcast is going to be the one that anoints a king, or, anoints another prophet, or whatever the case may be. But like, I doubt that's my journey. My journey is going to be a bit different. Nonetheless, the Lord has a next step for me. So I don't need to come to the Lord with my own plans and my own agendas because he forgot something, or he's looking for inputs. I can't plus up God's plan for my life. I can't. All I can do is bring him my current state. And if I'm in an exhausted state, if I'm in a wore out state, if I'm in that place of loneliness and despair and fear, like I can bring that to him, and I can go, all right, what do you want to do with me? How do you want to restore me? How do you want to lead me? How do you want me to hear from you? How do you want me to, what is the next step you're asking me to take, and how do I trust you with that step? So we hope that you found yourself somewhere in this story. And that as you consider this, and again, we're this podcast called Resilient Lineage, where we reflect on the past, anticipate the future, and discover what God
is up to
today. Like, there's this desire, like, genuinely, that The reason why we look into scriptures, this is us reflecting on the past in a lot of ways, right? That the same God that was active back there is the same God that's active today. And so how do we
and
then...
the struggles are the same.
Yeah.
Like in our nature, it's the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
Trials and tribulations. Like that was the thing then.
It's going to be a thing today.
Yeah.
And so there's a sense of that we can anticipate some of the stuff. There will be, you might be like in a really good place right now. You will come to the day where you're exhausted. You may be in a place that you're like, I'm actually really hopeful about the future. Awesome. Love it. Not wanting to discourage that. There will come a time when you will be in a place of despair, or you'll be in a place of loneliness, or you'll be in a place where you're fearful. Even though we know God's perfect love casts out fear, you can be in that, you'll be tempted to onboard those feelings and those thoughts and those emotions. And so, during that time, like the Lord has a path for you in all of that. If this has been helpful to you, we'd love for you to share this episode with someone, because I imagine there's somebody out there that could benefit, that could benefit from listening to this podcast.
Yeah.
You can
follow, rate, and review this podcast.
Hit like, subscribe,
follow us
on all the channels. We'd love for you to help us get the word out about the podcast. If you see this posted on Facebook, I share it, you share it. It's on Instagram. Like it, comment on it. That helps other people see what's going on. We'd love for you to kind of help us get the word out about this podcast. I was talking to somebody the other day. They're like, "Well, are you spending any money to advertise the podcast?" I was like, "No, we're not doing that." He's like, "Oh, well," and then he started telling me, started pitching me, "You could do this, that, and the other." I'm like, I think
our goal isn't to have all the followers in the world.
Yeah, our goal is to
just encourage.
Yeah, you. And we hope that's been the case today. Mm-hmm. So if you aren't subscribed to our newsletter, we'd love for you to subscribe to that. Visit thisresilientsoul.com/newsletter. You'll see a place there for you to be able to sign up for that. We send out a weekly email that highlights the content of the podcast and a link to be able to get to that, which can then become something that you forward on to others. In fact, somebody emailed me the other day about the newsletter. The newsletter didn't go out for a couple weeks because we had some family stuff going on. And so they emailed, they're like, "Hey, I'm really loving the podcast and the newsletter. Can you get that to me?" And
like, yes.
Yep. Okay. There's my motivation.
Hit my button.
That was my motivation. I was like, people are reading this. People are paying attention. So Gabby, thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah. All right. Do you have anything else?
No.
All right. We pray that you guys go with God
and be at peace.